this constructor does is nothing but copy the inputs into the variables. So it copies n into number, and it copies this array into the variable name, and it copies the floating point number g into the variable GPA. Okay. So after the constructor is run, these variables there will become populated. Yani they will get their values. If the user does not define them, like here, like this call to the constructor, if the user does not define them, they will get their default values, and if the user defines them, those values will be copied into these variables. Okay? Alright?
Yes.
Alright. Now I have, so that's the constructor. I have to have a constructor for the class to work well, because the constructor will set up the initializations for that object. Now I have three methods. There is a method for save, for load, and for print. Let's look at save. What save requires as input is a pointer to the file stream. Okay? An output file stream, because it's going to write a file, so it requires an output file stream. And then it takes whatever value the variables have for that object right now. It takes those values and it writes them to the file. And there are three different ways in which we are writing here. We are writing using this indirection operator. We are using the .write command and the .write command with casting the variable as characters. Okay, so these are the different. So what the save will do is it will write to this file, the output file stream, which is given as input to the function. It will write the variables into that file, and the load function requires an input file stream, and it will read from the file. It will read and copy into these variables number, name, and GPA. Okay, so it is reading from the file. All right. And then the print function is pretty simple. The print function takes whatever is the current value of the variables and it just outputs them on the screen with appropriate formatting. There's a \n in the beginning and a comma space in the middle and a comma space in the middle, just so that they are printed in a nice way. Okay?
Yes.
Now, because I have defined how the file save will happen and I have defined how the file read will happen, now I can use them in a class, in my code. So I say student, me, and its values. When I call this line, which function gets called? Yes, the constructor gets called, and so this is copied into number, and this is copied into name, and this is copied into GPA. Okay, because that's what the constructor does. It copies those values into the variables. Now that I have the object created, which is the name of the object is me, then I create an output file stream. Through these two commands, I'm creating an output file stream, and I give the file name and that I want this to be a binary file and so on. So I create the output file stream, and then I just simply say me.save with this output file stream. So me.save calls the save method of that object, because the object has code and data both, the code and variables both. So it calls the save method of that object, and the save method writes these variables into the file, and then I just close the file. So the file is closed now, it's on the disk, it's saved with the name test.dat. Okay? And now I have, so I close that file. Now I'm going to read from it. So I create another object of type student. And when this happens, which function gets called? Which function is called when I write this line? So I'm creating an object of type student. So the constructor will get called, right?
Yes.
So the constructor is called, but there are no input arguments here. There are no input arguments here. So it will use the default arguments, which means it creates an object D2, but the value of number is 0, the value of the name is empty, and the value of float is 0. Okay? And then I'm creating an input file stream. I'm creating an input file stream here. And then I say, so I'm saying read from this file in binary mode as input. Okay? And then what I'm doing is I'm saying me2.load. Okay, so load from this file. And when I say me2.load, this function gets called, which means it reads from the file and populates my variables. So it reads from the file and writes the value of name, number, and GPA. And then I say print. Now those variables, whatever I read from the file is now inside those variables. So when I call number, when I call print, the print already has those variables ready, and so it writes them out to the screen. Okay, and then I'm doing time.close, so the file gets closed. So this is an example of creating a class which will handle the input and an output, which will handle writing to a disk and reading from a disk. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any questions about this? Last time students told me this code is a little bit difficult, and so I said I will revise this again once more. Is this clear now?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, so let me just do a quick review of the topics that we have done. We started this course. We started this course by talking about secondary storage. Secondary. Actually, let me because I just have to type. Let me type on the screen so that it's there for you to refer to when you are revising. Okay, so we talked about secondary storage. Give me an example of secondary storage.
USB, CD, DVD, hard disk.
Yeah, hard disk, CD, DVD, USB, the SD card, tape drive. These are all examples of secondary storage. Okay. We talked about some important concepts related to the secondary storage. Well, specifically hard drive, because we started talking about hard disk, and so we talked about disk capacity, disk. What are the three things inside disk latency? The three important things in disk latency.
Seek time.
Yes, seek time.
Transfer time.
First rotational delay and then transfer time. Okay. We talked about disk scheduling. What are the different algorithms for that?
Short and seek time.
First in, first out. That's first. Then the shortest. Seek time first. Okay. Then what?
Scan, C-scan.
Yes, scan and circular scan. So those are the different scheduling algorithms. Then we talked about some other concepts related to the disk, which were like what is a cluster, what is a block. Okay, what is the difference between a cluster and a block? Okay, I'll come to that in just a moment. Okay, let me come to that. On the next slide, I'll talk about that. Okay, we talked about extents of a file, in how many chunks is the file. We talked about the disk as a bottleneck. Okay, because CPU works, the disks work slow, so that creates a bottleneck. And we talked about different strategies to alleviate that. And then we talked about file allocation table, which is a method to keep track of where the files are. Maybe I should do that later. First, we talked about the journey of a byte. How is a byte written? Okay, and we talked about the process. What is the process? The byte when I want to write a byte, it first gets written into where? When I want to write one byte onto the disk, it will first get written to the. We don't write it directly to the disk. We first write it to system buffer. Then it gets transferred to the I/O processor. Okay, you should revise these things because your exam is on Sunday. And then the I/O processor contacts the disk controller, and then it gets written onto the disk. Okay, so that's like the paths that the disk is. Okay, then we talked about files. We said files can be physical files. We can think of files as physical files or logical files. And what that means, physical files are files which have a name in your directory and they have different extents onto your hard disk, and the operating system through the file allocation table keeps track of where that physical file is. And logical files are how you access them in code. Okay? And then we talked about in C++ different file operations. We talked about how to open a file, how to close a file. We talked about the fstream object. In fact, this should be before this. We talked about the fstream object, which has two subclasses, the output file stream and the input file stream. Okay, and then we said how to open a file, how to close a file. We looked at some other methods in the file stream, like write, get, the indirection operators for read and write. We saw, for example, is open. Okay, fail method, file.fail. We can use that to decide when the reading is done. Or yeah, what else? I think those are the ones that we did. Okay. Alright, so that's kind of like a review. Let me save that so we have that for our future reference. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, we are going to, if you have any questions, you can ask me now, anything you don't understand. Otherwise, I will ask you questions on, similar to what you might see on the midterm. Are there any questions? No. Okay. So I have prepared some questions. So let's just look at those. In this question number 1, you have to mark the parts of the hard disk shown. So what is this? What is this called? Yes, very good. The read-write head. What is this thing? This is the read-write arm. Okay. What's this? This is what? Track. Yes, this is a track because it's one full circle on the surface. What is this? Sector. Yeah, sector is the smallest portion on the track. What is this? Cylinder. Okay, these are tracks on top of one another. Okay, and what's this? Okay, yes. You can call this a platter. Platter means one kind of physical plate. And what's one side called? One side of a platter, what's that called? Surface, yes, very good. Okay.